Hell, 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 hell. That's 6. Hellraiser Hellseeker is the 6th Hellraiser film, and the first one since the second Hellraiser to involve Kirsty Cotton at all. Kirsty being the young woman whose family tore itself apart in the pursuit of carnal pleasures, and just as she thought she got out, she was brought right back in when the mental hospital she was attending was dragged to hell. In the course of her life, she has had to survive being attacked by her uncle wearing her father's face, and she has had to dress herself in her stepmother's skin. She deserves, if anything, a nice and happy life. But unfortunately in this film, her husband is an adulterous bastard and a monster, and in this film she is given the spooky Hellraiser puzzle box as a birthday present. This sequel brings back the character that we followed at the start of the Hellraiser franchise, only to kill her off as part of the opening. Instead, we follow her adulterous bastard of a husband who goes about his daily life and meets his various girlfriends over the course of a day, alongside the mistresses and friends that helped him on the way to losing Kirsty in a tragic accident that has left him sadly having to accept her inheritance. Thankfully, though, this is a Hellraiser movie, and since this scumbag and everyone he was going along with and pursuing extramarital sex with, well, this is a Hellraiser film, of course. They are all brutally murdered. This isn't a spoiler, this is a Hellraiser film. If you are watching these films, you are most likely here for the gore, silly twists, and the Cenobites showing up here and there, and then once finally at the end for this big final scene where someone is killed with meat hooks and chains and whatnot. If you're watching Hellraiser films to get your fix of Hellraiser, then Hellseeker is the sort of middle of the road there. If you're watching a Hellraiser film just out of the ordinary, then Hellseeker is not really much worth stopping to watch, actually. I'd say, there are a lot of better things you could be watching than Hellraiser Hellseeker, and I cannot recommend this to you at all. It's not even a standalone film because cursory knowledge of the first two films is required, as opposed to later installments of the Hellraiser franchise, and a lot of the earlier installments of the Hellraiser franchise, actually, which did you the courtesy of catching you up. This one just sort of expects you to be familiar with the franchise, which is a bit of a pain. Now, of course, this is a film that you can sit back and relax in and watch as people who have sinned against the concept of traditional marriage are killed for the crime of being sexually active. I'm not saying that extramarital sex isn't evil. I honestly hate it more than I should due to some personal experiences in my family and shit that messed me around as a kid. But the thing is, I don't really think it's sort of a death sentence sort of crime, and that sort of thing is actually a death sentence in a lot of horror movies. Having sex outside of marriage at all is a way it's a thing that's almost guaranteed to get you to die and supposedly deserve to die, and audiences will laugh and enjoy the death and stick it in their top 10 compilation video about the best deaths in the franchise. I mean, I guess they deserved it. They did have sex outside of a traditional Christian married relationship. That's just a sort of general observation of the genre. The monster in the middle of this film is, of course, a jerk who returns his wife to a world of extramarital sex and demons hiding inside of a Rubik's Cube after a fairly long break for her, one should imagine, and he kind of deserves to die for trying to trick his wife into opening a box that will give her soul to bondage-themed demons that love to torture people and talk about the sweet, sweet suffering. I just don't think that the women he was cheating on his wife with quite deserved to die. At least, I mean, the ones that weren't privy to the conspiracy to have her killed. I'm not certain if they were or if they aren't. It's been a while. These include, of course, a sexy acupuncturist, a sexy boss, just sort of general lewd outside marriage relationship things. Why would you watch this film? It is another Hellraiser film, and the actress that played Kirsty Cotton is here for a bit of the film, and there's a twist ending that you might well see coming, and it does feel a bit like the exact same twist as Hellraiser Inferno to some extent. But the twist is entertaining enough, and it does redeem a lot of the earlier movie and anyone's misgivings about the plot premise of the film, as opposed to the plot execution. Now, another note, of course, the Cenobites in this film are also very middle of the road. Although, to be fair, I like the creepy scenes in the real world at the place the evil cheating jerk gets the box from. Sort of a back alley place with a few creepy images and a woman who later reappears as a Cenobite in a gross fashion and design. Like the Hellraiser films sort of find this one body type and use it for Hellraiser Hellseeker and Hellraiser Hellworld and Hellraiser Deader, where the Cenobites are just sort of men of average builds with leather clothes and a spooky demon mask. Compare that to Hellraiser Inferno, which has the Wire Twins with their small bodies and sewn-up eyes, Hellraiser Bloodlines with the conjoined twin Cenobites, and Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth, which has CD the DJ, a man with CDs in his head and a CD player in his chest that dispenses CDs. Hell, 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 Cenobite, Cenobite, Cenobite. They just sort of become two backup dancers in a film for Pinhead instead of a force and a presence in their own right, like the Cenobites in Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2, or full characters like the Cenobites in Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth and Hellraiser Bloodlines. So yeah, it is a little nice to see a scary-looking person in restraints that later reappears as a scary Cenobite in restraints in this film. Because at least that creates this sort of like setup and payoff. Like, compare that as well. The deaths of the various people in this film are just about average horror movie deaths, with the one Hellraiser killing being hooks at the end, and there's a couple other ones with, we have this scar-masked serial killer carrying out the killings instead of the Cenobites, a bit like the masked killer that was in Hellraiser Inferno, and there's a lot of Hellraiser feeling like it's repeating itself a lot of the time. Like, people do come into these films just expecting more of the Hellraiser franchise, and it feels like they are delivering more of the Hellraiser franchise, and it's rather disappointing as far as niggling feelings about something go, and when that's already something this film is having to fight all these things that are holding it back. And this film has Kirsty Cotton come back, and that's neat, but I just can't say that as if that's all it takes to make a good Hellraiser film. It just feels like another Hellraiser film, and this one doesn't really have much in the way of memorable scenes beyond like some weird detectives and this one really down-to-earth and casual chit-chat with a lead Cenobite, where no one really seems that worked up. He's just sort of happy to see Kirsty again, and they have a conversation. Hellraiser Hellseeker. It's just another Hellraiser. We want more Hellraiser, we'll keep watching more Hellraiser, and we keep complaining when we get more Hellraiser. Hell, 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 hell. I have 2 more of these to go before I am done talking about Hellraiser films. And you might ask why I keep forcing myself to talk about them. And that's because I really actually enjoy one of the 4 direct-to-DVD sequels. Hellraiser Deader is a treat, and I will talk about that lastly, even though technically speaking I should be talking about it before I talk about Hellraiser Hellworld, but I'd rather end on a positive note than be going on about the one that I hate the most. Anyway, thanks for listening, listeners, to this thing.